That's it. The end of another season. Arsenal finishing second place for a third campaign in a row. The women win the Champions League, but there's more to do this summer as Mikel Arteta plans to leave no stone unturned when it comes to transfers in the market. This is today's Arsenal Raw Reaction Show. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys and girls for another episode of what is the Arsenal Raw Reaction. I was going to say new show. I've got so used to saying it, but it is indeed the final Raw Reaction show of the season. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to be very honest with you right from the off. This is going to be a short episode. The reason why is there's a celebration to be had. There's a trophy lift to be seen. There is a Champions League to have already been won. And I'm going to be heading up to London very shortly to catch a train for the women's trophy lift at the Emirates Stadium. If you aren't able to go and you want to get some behind-the-scenes looks, hopefully I'm going to be able to bring you some of those. We're going to be doing a live blog on the football.london website of the parade with some insight into what's going on. So follow it over there. I'll be tweeting it, of course, as well. But it does mean, of course, today's show is going to be shorter because of that, only around 15 to 20 minutes or so. So let's not waste any time. Good morning to you all. Thank you so much for tuning in. Greatly appreciate it. Mark Olawale, Easton, Zoom. We've got Paul and Steve. We've got Joey. We've got Jonathan, Lars, Brian, Tom, Claire. We've got Evan and John and Black Shine and Martin and Trader Mike. We've got Matt G. We've got Claire and TG. We've got Steve, we've got James, we've got Zoom, we've got so many of you guys and girls in the chat box. Thank you so much as always for tuning in. It is greatly appreciated. If you could drop a like on the video, if you could subscribe to the channel if you're new, that would also be very helpful indeed. So thank you to you all. Let's jump into today's stories though, which is of course a reaction to yesterday's victory over Southampton and a roundup of all of the season's action really, which is going to have to be done pretty concisely today. We will, of course, have plenty of time over the next few weeks or so to have a reflection. We'll be having people on the show, of course, some guests, probably a phone in at some point as well, to discuss things and, of course, look ahead to the summer transfer window, which is taking up, well, let's be honest, all of our thinking right now. But yeah, I was there yesterday driving down to Southampton. Beautiful day as it started out today, although I am worried because there are suggested to be some showers later on. Hopefully the parade will survive that. And it'll be fine. But yes, there is no slides because I say we're in a big rush today. So we're kind of just going to go through this collaboratively with you all in the chat box. And we'll kick off with Amesy, who kind of highlights what was the real highlight of yesterday, which is so happy for Kieran Tierney getting his goal. What a send-off. What a brilliant send-off that he had yesterday from the supporters, from the fans, from those that had come along to Southampton to send the best to the players and to celebrate the end of a very, very challenging and tricky campaign, of course, as well. So, yeah, it was a great moment to see him score. It was a great experience and a fantastic finish from Kieran Tierney as well to give Arsenal the lead, running to the near post before slotting in. And Mikel Arteta actually revealed after the game that Tierney had turned around and said that he was going to score on his final game. He said, let me find the quote, and because it was a really, really funny moment, to be fair. He said it yesterday, I'm going to score on my last Arsenal match, and he's done it. So credit to him, a special thank you to him. He's been a part of this journey and he's won with me. It's true that he went to Sociedad for a few months, but he's been a joy to work with, a really special character, and we wish him and his family all the very best. The doors of this club are open for him. He's someone very, very liked at the club in the dressing room, and we all want to wish him the best. It's really sad to see Kieran Tierney leave. It really, really is. There was a feeling at one time that he could have been the best left back in the Premier League for a period, but the game evolved. Our team evolved, and the left back position became very different at Arsenal. And of course, Arsenal have evolved with that change in position and have grown and improved and put themselves back into a title bracket and a Champions League semi-final into the latter stages of those competitions again as a result of that evolution. And I think Kieran Tierney's far too good to play in Scotland, with all due respect. I think he could play in the European top 5 leagues comfortably. I think he could contribute a hell of a lot to plenty of teams. So we'll see what happens in the summer. It seems that he's going back to Celtic, but I really feel as though that his future should be somewhere where he can play at a very, very high standard. But let's wait and see what happens with him. Of course, Arsenal's winning goal was scored by Martin Odegaard, a player who I think we've wanted to see shoot more from outside the box this season. But in the last few games, he started to get a rhythm back. He started to find his footing again when it comes to those shots from outside the box. Of course, it was his strike against Liverpool that rebounded to Mikel Merino for the equaliser there. And he comes off the bench here to strike low, pass to Aaron Ramsdale, who got a great appreciative kind of applause from the Arsenal fans. Odegaard scoring. And, you know, it's not been a season that, I mean, it's been a horrid season, really, for him in terms of kind of his standards of what we've come to expect from him. He's ended the season with 6 goals and 12 assists, but only 3 goals in the Premier League across 30 appearances, 8 assists. That is not the return that we have come to expect from Martin Odegaard. And I think, obviously, that the injury that he suffered at the beginning of the campaign, he was never really able to recover from last season. 8 goals, 11 assists, more than double the number of goals he's got this season. And of course, the season before that, 15 goals and 7 assists, you know. So they're the types of levels that we've come to expect from Odegaard, and we need to see that level back again next season. But he needs competition. He needs not to be comfortable in his role, and that is obviously on the market, which is where the attention turns almost immediately. It's with it being something of a nothing game competitively, naturally, attentions did turn to the summer. And I spoke to Mikel Arteta after the game in the press conference, and I said to him, did you know that it's been around 100 years since Arsenal finished a league season without a single player in double digits in terms of goals? And he said, in order to achieve that, a lot of things have to happen. The team has to provide, the player has to play a certain amount of games and minutes. And believe me, we are on it. We will try to squeeze and think and turn every stone that we possibly can to make this club even more successful. But I think what these boys have done, the team has done regarding everything that has happened, I repeat myself, I think this deserves a lot of credit. I know some people aren't very happy with where we finished and the lack of trophies this season, but I maintain the view that I've held, you know, for quite some time on the show, and I can't believe Arsenal finished second. I can't believe they got to a Champions League semi-final. I genuinely cannot, and a League Cup semi-final as well. I cannot fathom how they've managed to do that with the players, the shortness, how few resources we have had this season, and that's a failure inside the club from the summer and from January, of course, and that, of course, is going to hopefully change moving forwards. We know that there is investment there. We know that there is investment we've already had. We know investment's going to come in this window as well. But ultimately, we need to make sure that we don't start next season like we started this one, which was short in a number of areas. And Arteta will be very keen to try and change that. Steve says, I've got a soft spot for Kieran Tierney. Injuries really hit him hard. I hope everything goes well for him in the future. Absolutely. Big Time says, the same Arteta said not to settle last season, and he went on to sign Sterling. He needs to stop waffling and get it done. I'm Arteta in, though, by the way. It's not about waffling. It's like, he's just asked questions in a press conference. He has to give those answers. It's time to put the money where the mouth is, though. It's time to be actions more than words, obviously. I agree. And hopefully in the summer, we're going to see. So let's see what happens. Martin says, Tom, the fact that despite everything we got second place in Champions League semi-final shows just how good we are when everybody is fit. It shows you what the potential of this team, of course, still is. It shows you what this team can still do, what this team can still achieve. So hopefully, indeed, they are able to do that in the coming months that we've got until next season starts. John says, Tom, I've seen the links to Rodrigo. I believe he's skillful, but do you think he's strong enough for the Premier League? I can't say that I know too much about him. I think that he is a good player. I think that he's certainly a player that can offer Arsenal plenty. But there's always a question. You know, and this goes for any player. It goes for any player that's going to come to the Premier League. They have got to be good enough that they can transition to a league that's more competitive, gives you less time, less space, gives you less opportunities in some ways. We don't know. We don't know if Rodrigo or Gyökeres or Sesko, whoever, is going to be able to make that transition to the Premier League. But Rodrigo is certainly up there amongst those that I think would be a really astute piece of business by the club to achieve during these upcoming windows. Tizer says, squad was small before the season and before Miles Lewis-Skelly and Nwaneri came in. We now have Jesus and Tomiyasu out in the long term. We're letting 4 players potentially leave as well and could sell more. How many players do you think we'll get? I think we have to get a minimum of 5 through the door. You got to think about the fact that obviously there are going to be other players that are trying to make the step up. Max Dowman, we expect to be part of the group next season, so that's one. But 5 external signings minimum is what I really think Arsenal need to aim for during this window. Daniel says Lucas Fabianski on a free transfer to compete with Hine to be the backup, save the money for outfield signings. I think Lucas Fabianski's a good goalkeeper, but I don't think that's the right number 2. But I do agree in saving money in those areas for more, impactful positions on the field. Aiden says, should Darwin Nunez's success in Portugal make us cautious? Cautious, yes. It's worth, absolutely being cautious about it. As I said before, I'm pretty torn on those two. I slightly lean towards Sesko, have been for a while. And certainly the discussions in the press room before the game, we were sitting there, James McNicholas, Charles Watts, Sam Dean, Simon. There was a real kind of feeling that Sesko was probably the preferred option among us as we were discussing it before the game. The doubts about Gyökeres and whether or not he can turn what he's doing in Portugal into the Premier League are obviously there for everybody, but there was a real sense of that Sesko was the smarter signing of the two. That's certainly the vibe I was getting. Jermaine says, Tom, do you think Leao could go up a notch under Arteta? I think he could definitely improve. I think most players would improve under Arteta, but I don't think Leao is the right player for Arsenal. And it says, Tom, did you see Gyökeres lead Sporting to a domestic double? Bring him to the carpet. Sorry, no project signing. Have a great day at the Emirates. He is a project signing. Gyökeres is still a project signing because he has to be developed into a player that can play in the Premier League. There is still that element of project about him as well. Just because he's older doesn't stop there being a project when it comes to signing a player like that. And any player that we sign, even Sesko, yes, of course, it looks more like a project signing because he's younger, but there is an expectation that he has to deliver immediately as well. Chris says, what about Jason Steele from Brighton? I think he'd be perfect. Second choice keeper. He's 33. Give him a 3-year contract and then Setford can be ready. I wouldn't be against that. I think that's a better age of goalkeeper to go for as a number 2. I'm not against it. But I do think it's a position that we need to save money in, not spend money in. Let's go to Daniel, who says, whichever of Sesko, Gyökeres, Watkins the club choose, I will support it. I just want one of them. Gyökeres scored 11 squillion goals against farmers and fishermen. But does that translate to the Premier League? I wouldn't go as disrespectful as as Daniel has there regarding the Portuguese league, but I get the sentiment. I understand the doubts because I've got doubts there as well. Charles says, do we really need a goalkeeper? We can use Carl Hein or promote. I mean, Carl Hein is an interesting point. I don't think Carl Hein should be ruled out, entirely. I don't think that's one that we should be, dismissing. I think he's a player that, we need to be conscious of his existence. I think that's important. Carl says, Tom, know you're tired of this, but after watching videos of Gyökeres and Sesko, not too impressed with Victor. I feel that Sesko has a powerful strike and is more fluid. What do you like about Sesko? Well, I mean, you raised some interesting points there. I think technically there is a slighter increase on his side than there is compared to Gyökeres. I also think if you look and watch the majority of Gyökeres' goals, that was one of the things that we talked about yesterday in the press room. If you watch the majority of Gyökeres' goals, a lot of them come on the counter, a lot of them come in transition, a lot of them come from having a lot of space. And when you watch Sesko, I see more goals in positions that I think are more similar to than what you would get for Arsenal as opposed to Gyökeres. A lot of his goals come from kind of being set through on goal. A lot of his goals come from counter-attacks, less from kind of those tight spaces. Whereas Sesko, there are more examples of goals with him that happen in those tighter spaces or chances that come in those tighter spaces. So that's why, again, I have been leaning more that way than the other. I think people look at the volume of goals he's got and just think that just means that it's going to work, and it could. But I have doubts. P Sharp says, thanks for everything this season, Tom, and everything. Everyone contributing as well. Enjoy the holidays and have a pint on me. Thank you, mate. That's very kind of you indeed. Really appreciate your listenership and being here with us, P. It's been an absolute pleasure to host you all. Ticking Time Bomb says, would rather have Isak and Williams or Gyökeres and Sesko and Rodrigo. I'd rather have Isak and Williams because Isak is the dream striker, I think. Amira says, Hein isn't the worst keeper, especially for his age and experience. He could potentially be a Kelleher type, I suppose, but only if he wants to stay. And Paul says Hein was our keeper in pre-season and he was fantastic. Should be given a chance to be the number 2 after this season and before sending him out on loan. Local Judens, who joined us the other day in the chat, says, fair enough, Arsenal do have a lot of transitions, though. They do. They have transition moments, for sure. But the volume is very, very different to what Sporting have. Sporting have been very good at kind of coaxing out those poorer sides. And what often happens in games with Sporting, because they're so dominant, is if they get an early lead in games, those teams have to be drawn out and have to go on the attack to try and get a goal because they've got nothing to really lose at that point, and that opens up spaces even more for them. It's just very hard to not look at the grander context around Gyökeres and have those doubts. As you know, many who have those doubts, we wish that he succeeds, Gyökeres, if indeed he is the one that is picked. While Sesko was certainly the preference, I think, amongst us when we were chatting yesterday, there was a real sense that Gyökeres is still a very, very realistic option, that Arsenal still may go for Gyökeres in the summer window. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. Andy says, morning, Tom. We can't rely on just buying one top striker as we don't want to overplay one player and what happens if they get long-term injury. I think that obviously the presence of Kai really helps with that. Him being in the squad next season with the centre-forward that we're going to hopefully sign solves that concern. So I think it's a good point, but I think we are well equipped with Kai, to deal with that. So I think that should be all right. Culture Mark says, hey, Tom, do you think Gyökeres and Sesko can play together? I mean, maybe, but it's never going to happen, unfortunately, Mark. You're never going to sign both. If you sign one, the other's not going to come. It's just as simple as that, really. D says, Arsenal create a lot of chances, so I expect any striker we sign could thrive, but I prefer Sesko. I think he's better suited to our play. Jay says, damn you, Tom, you're making me move towards Sesko as my preference. I'm sorry. I can't help. I can only give you what I believe are the facts. And the facts are that stylistically, Sesko does suit us more. I think that there is a greater ceiling, of course, with him. He's already playing in a better league. And the volume of goals that Gyökeres scores when you look across those guys. And I recommend the next thing that you do after this show, find a video. They are out there, and go watch the goals that both players score. And you will see that trend. Sesko will be more expensive than Gyökeres, not by loads, but he will be more expensive than him, like 10 to 15 million pound more, I think. But yeah, it's just one of those where we're just going to have to wait and see who we go for and then how they do. It's impossible to know what either will do, but we're just going to have to wait and see. Matt, who's been a member with us now for 32 months. Thank you for the kind appreciation and support, mate. First live show in a while. Thanks for all the content, TC. Matt joins us all the way from Chicago, so you've got to appreciate the effort that goes into watching this show at 2 a.m. or whatever it is in the morning. Maxime says, if Newcastle had missed out on the Champions League last night, do you think that we would have gone for Isak? Maybe, but they haven't. Two things. One, Unai Emery bottling another Champions League qualification run. Second one, awful refereeing. Horrendous refereeing. I haven't got really the time to go into it, but utterly horrendous. Disgusting. And again, we're here talking about referees spoiling this sport. And we talk about how new referees should be given opportunities, and this is another young, inexperienced ref, less experienced than some of the more experienced referees in the game that we have right now, and he's made a very, very big mistake, a very costly error, and goodness gracious me, what's going to happen to Aston Villa now? What's going to happen to the refereeing? Another season's done. I said this would be a short show because I've got to catch a train for the trophy lift at the Emirates. Thank you so much for all of your support this season. It is so greatly appreciated. You cannot imagine how grateful I am to have all of you sending in your love and your support all the time. I put a tweet up yesterday, and Twitter can be a horrible place, right? It can be a really horrible place. We all know this. And I put a tweet up to end the season. I'm just saying kind of that's this season over. First season in my new role that I've been doing since January. And you know what? There wasn't one mean reply. They were all nice. And I think that really goes to show, the support, the community, the kindness that exists within this group and this family that we call the TGT gang. So thank you to you all. I'll be back with you tomorrow morning for what will be the Arsenal transfer show, episode 570 or whatever it is. And of course, then that kicks off our coverage of the summer transfer window and all of the news surrounding what Arsenal will hope to be a very, very successful summer. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning in. It is greatly appreciated. Drop a like before you go. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Maybe you're joining us for the first time for the last episode of this season. But don't worry, we'll be right back with you tomorrow morning. You can make it your new morning routine. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. Stay safe, stay well, stay happy and respectful. And as always, and for one final time this season, up the Arsenal.